Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Prime Time News here on News First, where the people come first. You're joining me, Naveksha Gunasekara. We start off by taking a look at your headlines for tonight.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Privatizing SLT is a threat to national security. It would expose the country's critical communication information to outsiders. A statement from the Sectoral Committee on National Security. Inability of the CPC and the IOC to supply the required amount of fuel stocks to the country is the reason to allow 3 other companies to enter the fuel market. A statement from the Ministry of Power and Energy. Minister Amaravira says project to export Sri Lanka's Talk Macau monkeys to China is still on. 7 officers of the Police Narcotics Bureau arrested over the death of a vocational training officer while in police custody.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
In your top story for tonight, the Sectoral Oversight Committee on National Security says it will not recommend privatizing Sri Lanka Telecom as matters sensitive to national security could be exposed.
The Sectoral Oversight Committee on National Security is chaired by SLPP parliamentarian Sarath Weerasekara, and the other members included Chamal Rajapaksa, Johnston Fernando, Sampath Athukorala, Pradeep Udugoda, Chandima Veerakodi, Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca, Professor Channa Jasumana, Sumit Udukumbura, Sudarshana Denipitiya and Nimal Piyatissa. The report prepared by the Sectoral Oversight Committee on National Security on the impact of the privatization of the state-owned 49.5 stake of Sri Lanka Telecom would have on national security was presented to the Parliament on Friday the 9th, and it contained 20 key points. There will be high risk of information of important subscribers of diplomatic missions, high-level public sector, private sector, corporate businesses, defense services, etc. getting leaked out or snooped out. If privatized, the government will lose control for call mongering, and snooping data as tools used for such monitoring are hidden from usual operations and maintenance. The call detail records of VVIPs and security agencies as well as browsing data can easily be extracted from and passed down to wrong hands. Fraudulent acts in telecom industry such as misuse in routers, call bypass, call hijacking, etc. could lead to a loss of a considerable amount of revenue to the state. The above are some of the key points in the document. In addition, the report notes that if privatized and if the purchaser controlling the shares in SLT does not agree to comply with the Computer Crimes Act, Electronic Transaction Act, Right to Information Act, Banking Act, Telecommunication Act and Intellectual Property Act, national security will be affected.
Further privatization would expose the country's critical communication infrastructure, sensitive information, to private entities whose profit-oriented interests can compromise national security. Hence, privatization of telecom is not recommended. Anyone, organization who had been blacklisted, helped terrorists, extremists in any form should not be allowed to buy any share and have any control over our national assets. The state can buy back the other large shareholder of telecom as provided for in the agreement, divide the segments into sensitive and vulnerable, excess lands and buildings, critical infrastructure and the business. Whilst retaining the first segments affecting national security, the state can divest the others holding a major share through private-public partnership, ensuring critical infrastructure is protected and all government regulations are adhered to.
Former Minister Johnston Fernando was appointed to the Sectoral Oversight Committee on National Security on the 6th of June, and on Friday the 9th, Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca said he would step down from the committee. MP Rauf Hakim was appointed by the Samagi Janabala Vegiya to the Sectoral Oversight Committee on National Security for the position left vacant by Field Marshal Fonseca.
The government has focused its attention to the Sectoral Oversight Committee report, which was presented to Parliament today, emphasizing the concerns surrounding the potential risk to national security resulting from the privatization of Sri Lanka Telecom. The President's Media Division in a statement said, while acknowledging the factual content of the report, the government believes that it lacks a logical or scientific data analysis pertaining to the subject. It adds, to address this deficiency, it is necessary to examine the operations and regulation of information and communication technology service providers in Sri Lanka, analyze financial data related to the sector, understand Sri Lanka's national ambitions in this field, assess the available capital capacity, and conduct a comprehensive study of global trends. It stated that the government has confirmed that the policy decision taken by the government will not affect the national security as indicated in this report. The President's media division also says that a final decision will be taken at an upcoming cabinet meeting, taking into consideration the recommendations of the information and communication sector as well as this report. Additionally, the PMD emphasizes that the current government's policy is focused on providing opportunities to the private sector, distancing it from direct government involvement.
The Sri Lankan government has provided reasons to justify the opening of the local retail fuel market to 3 more companies. These reasons are revealed in the announcement issued by the President's Media Division and the performance report presented by the Ministry of Power and Energy for the year 2022. According to the reasons provided, the economic crisis in 2022 was mainly caused by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and Lanka Indian Oil Company being unable to provide sufficient foreign exchange. According to the Ministry performance report, Lanka Indian Oil Company had also imported oil using the foreign exchange obtained through local banks. It also states that both the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and the Lanka Indian Oil Company were unable to secure the required foreign exchange on time. The Ministry of Power and Energy points out that Sinopec, RM Parks and the United Petroleum were given permission to enter the Sri Lankan retail fuel market in such a situation. A heated exchange broke out in Parliament over the organic fertilizer shipment from China and nanonitrogen fertilizer from India, and calls were made to conduct proper investigations into the transactions. $6.9 million was paid for organic fertilizer from China. We didn't get fertilizer or the funds, and steps haven't been taken to encash the bank guarantee to cover the loss to the country. When will steps be taken to cover the loss to the country under the bribery and commission procedure? 500 milliliters of it is sold for $3.23 in India, but Sri Lanka purchased it for $12.45. An additional 1,867 rupees was paid above the retail price in India. The additional expense is 7.8 billion. What is the government saying regarding the nanonitrogen fertilizer scam? When talking of the fertilizer scam during the term of the past government, our representation is a parliamentary privilege. There is no definite answer regarding the expenses and scam because it is the same group of thieves, so they cannot respond. Even the Deputy Speaker should be responsible to make a statement stating that those responsible will be revealed and arrested if the taxpayers' money has been misused through fertilizer shipments or in any other way. The government hasn't given a proper response. When the incident took place, new ministers said they'll look into it and punish those responsible. This fertilizer cost 2,500 million. If there is a person responsible, whether it is officials or someone else, we will take steps in this regard. If you go on about it, we will not be able to continue the agenda. You cannot conduct an investigation within seconds. The Chief Government Whip responded, so don't inconvenience the House. Make use of this opportunity. We can recover the stolen money and strengthen the farmers of the country. That is why we are raising the matter.
Sri Lankan farmers are facing a plethora of issues, and it has been 45 days since the farmers in Serupitiya Dehiyattakandiya cultivated their paddy lands. Farmers allege that they are yet to be provided with sufficient stocks of fertilizer. Therefore, around 300 acres of paddy lands in Serupitiya are at risk.
After 45 days, we need Bandi fertilizer. This is the time to apply Bandi fertilizer. If we do not receive it on time, we cannot earn money. The government must tell us when will they give us the concessions.
Farmers claim that even though the government announced a voucher system, they have not received any vouchers.
Do not try to fool the farmers once again with liquid fertilizer. You can extort any amount of commission from the fertilizer companies, but provide the farmers the coupons. Please provide the farmers with the MOP and urea fertilizer.
Farmers in Uhana Ampara are also facing the same issue. They said that it is time to add the Bandi fertilizer. However, they are yet to receive the fertilizer subsidies.
If we do not add fertilizer on time, there is no use of cultivating. The agriculture minister said a voucher will be provided. The innocent farmers are always fooled. They have pawned their jewellery and have nothing left to eat.
Bolivar River Left Bank, convening a media briefing today, vehemently condemned the efforts taken by the government to suppress media.
Media is the only way the public has to convey their cries and ideas to the world. There are many issues that needs the attention of the government. Today the farmers cannot sell their paddy due to the prevailing economic crisis in the country. We don't even have enough fertilizer. Without supplying the fertilizer, the government is trying to establish a commission to regulate media. Please withdraw this bill. This is an attempt of the government to violate our right of expression, our right for information, and our democracy.
The Minister of Mass Media expressed his views regarding the proposal on the Broadcasting Regulatory Commission today.
We are responsibly stating that it is an act brought not against the media but to protect the media institutions and journalists. Some parties believe that through enforcement, the media institutions will be attacked. News will be formulated the way the government wants it to be. There is no such attempt. The government can be there tomorrow as well. Therefore, understanding the situation, we clearly state that this will be passed only after discussing with all media institutions and senior journalists in the country. It appears that the State Minister has also not read the draft proposal for the Broadcasting Regulatory Commission. The document does not appear to have been drafted with an intention of protecting the media. Honourable State Minister, if you do get an opportunity, read the proposal of the Cabinet Subcommittee led by Vijayadasa Rajapaksa. The proposed committee of 5 members are appointed by the President. The President can also remove the members at any given time. The Commission can revoke a broadcaster's license or even temporarily suspend them. The license must be renewed every year. There is a separate investigations committee. They can obtain a court order and enter a media institution and collect information. If information is not provided, they can arrest journalists as well as fine them. These are only a few of the provisions in the draft proposal. Are you planning on bringing laws to protect media based on this document? Journalists who have seen many governments and ministers of media come and go see this document not as a proposal against media, but a proposal against the general public. Only the media is left to speak for the people. Wouldn't putting the media in shackles violate the rights of businessmen, professionals, farmers, labourers, conductors, students, and all other people in the country?
Issuing a statement, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka says freedom of expression of Sri Lankan citizens is being restricted and threatened by administrative and criminal sanctions. The Bar Association of Sri Lanka believes that the right to protest, as manifested in the freedom of assembly, association and expression, is an important feature of a democratic society. The BASL cited a judgment delivered by His Lordship Justice Buanekalu Vihare, which says, quote,
"Those who begin coercive elimination of dissent soon find themselves exterminating dissenters. Compulsory unification of opinion achieves only the unanimity of the graveyard. It seems trite, but necessary to say that the First Amendment was designed to avoid these ends by avoiding these beginnings.
Unquote. The BASL reminds the government that in a country with a rich history of expression through protest, it is important that people are not silenced and their right to peaceful protest is upheld and respected. US Ambassador to Sri Lanka has noted that the country must protect the right to freedom of expression.
US Ambassador Julie Chung said that at the core of every democracy is the right to freedom of expression for every citizen. She further added, quote, "The protection of this fundamental right must continue to be a cornerstone of Sri Lanka's efforts to rebuild a stable, secure and prosperous future for all Sri Lankans." End quote.
While innocent farmers across the country continue to lament over the fertilizer issue, the attention of the Sri Lankan Parliament was drawn towards the proposal to export Sri Lanka's talk macaw monkeys to China.
A Chinese company which runs more than 20,000 private zoos in China presented a proposal to us asking us to release some of Sri Lanka's talk macaw monkeys to China. They wanted around 1,000 to 2,000 Sri Lankan talk macaw monkeys immediately. Several environmental organizations raised concerns over this proposal. They raised their concerns to the Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka. They even condemned the Chinese people, saying that the Chinese want to eat these talk macaw monkeys. We were put into an uncomfortable situation as a country, but still, the proposal that was presented by the Chinese company is still on. We continued the discussions, but I think the Ministry of Wildlife Conservation must join in these discussions. Several environmental NGOs, being greedy for the dollars they get, are hampering all attempts we take to save our innocent farmers from this disaster. These NGOs, which are funded by the Western countries, want to stop these attempts and destroy our country's economy and her future.
There
There are several legal issues on implementing this program. In order to clarify this and to amend these laws and regulations, we have sought the advice of the Attorney General. This House must understand that this is not a project that can be done easily. What we are about to report is a very sensitive story. However, we are compelled to report on it as it is very important for adults to pay extra attention on the well-being of children, especially their own.
On Thursday evening, the lifeless body of a 5-year-old boy was found on a state-owned land in Halbarava within the Mullairiyava Police Division. When the body was found, lacerations were observed on the abdomen. It was reported that only one other person was on the land with the child and he was operating a grass cutter. Shards of a glass bottle were also found nearby. The deceased lived in a house close to the land where the body was found and was raised by a single mother. When she goes to work, the responsibility of taking care of the child lies with the grandfather, and his grandfather was taking care of him as usual on Thursday. The grandfather was employed as the caretaker of a state-owned land. The deceased boy's grandfather had left the premises upon receiving information that his brother had passed away, and given the man operating the grass cutter the responsibility of taking care of the boy.
At this site last evening, a young boy of 5 years was found dead. What was unusual about his routine was that a grass cutter had been commissioned and the boy was left alone in the care of the grass cutter. And according to the story told by the grass cutter, when he came back from working on the site, the boy had been found dead. The child had been playing with the glass bottle and had died when the bottle broke and the pieces had pierced his body. However, the body of the child was found right over here and the remains of the glass bottle further away over here.
At around 4:45 p.m. on Thursday, neighbors had seen the boy playing in the land and thereafter had seen him on the ground at around 5:15 p.m.
He came running as soon as the machine stopped working. Around 10 minutes later, he ran over and said the boy had fallen on top of a water bottle and that his intestines were out. I realized the boy had passed away.
Sri Lanka police launched an investigation, and on Friday evening it was revealed that the boy's abdomen had suffered injuries after coming into contact with the grass cutting machine. The man who operated the grass cutting machine said that when he was inspecting an issue on the machine, it switched on. He said that a glass bottle was ripped apart by the grass cutter, and when he raised the machine, it came into contact with the boy's abdomen. However, Sri Lanka police is continuing to investigate if the death was an accident or a crime.
Certain suspicions arose based on the situation. The OIC launched a homicide investigation. The investigation is taking place based on the contradictions that were observed.
මේ අපරාධ ස්ථානයේ තියෙන තත්ත්වයට අතර යම්කිසි සැකකටයුතු ස්වභාවයක් තියෙනවා. යම්කිසි පරස්පර තත්ත්වයක් දකින්න තියෙනවා. ඒ තත්ත්වය නිසාම තමයි මේ ආකාරයට විමර්ශන කරන්නේ.
This little boy started schooling this year. Be it an accident or a crime, this incident highlights the fact that parents and adults must pay close attention to the well-being of children.
News First with the people.
When a heart attack strikes, every minute makes the difference between life and death. With the right care and treatment at the hand of the most skilled surgeons and medical professionals. With the perfect environment for recovery. Darden's Heart Centre, dedicated to you.
Welcome back to the news. 7 police officers have been arrested today over the death of a suspect in custody of the Police Narcotics Bureau who was previously employed at the Vocational Training Authority.
A sub-inspector, police sergeant and 5 police constables have been arrested based on the investigation conducted by the Criminal Investigation Department. Samantha Preeti Kumara, a 41-year-old resident from Hikkaduwa who worked at Narayanpeta Vocational Training Authority, died on January 11th while in police custody.
Discussions took place in Parliament today regarding the arrest of parliamentarian Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam.
We condemned the act of taking a parliamentarian who was on his way to Parliament into police custody on Thursday. We noticed that the minister had expressed several opinions to the newspapers in defense of the police. I didn't talk to the newspapers. I discussed this in Parliament. Newspapers might have published the discussions that took place within the Parliament, since he didn't report to the police station when he was asked to do so, and when several notices were sent informing to visit the police station, a police team had come to Colombo and went looking for him. He wasn't taken into custody while he was on his way to Parliament. That is also wrong. If it is a serious offence, with the approval of the Speaker, he could have been taken into custody. We are disappointed of the action taken by the Speaker as well. The Speaker had already been informed by the police on the 5th of June that he will be taken into police custody. This happened on the 7th of June. It is better to inform the police to get permission from the Speaker. Does the police have to get the approval of the Speaker or simply inform the Speaker? I think it is better to discuss it with the Speaker. There is a standing order and also there is tradition, therefore it is better to discuss this with the Speaker.
22 people were injured in an accident that took place along the Avisavela-Colombo main road. The accident had taken place at around 3 a.m. today. According to the police, a SLTB bus travelling from Akarepattu to Colombo had collided with a lorry.
It was at about 3 a.m. We heard a loud noise. I came running to see what happened. People in the lorry and the bus started to shout. A few people began to come out after that.
22 people injured in the accident were admitted to the Homagama and Navagamua hospitals. The injured includes 20 passengers on the bus driver and the driver of the lorry. One person involved in selling drugs to school students has been arrested by the police special task force.
The suspect was arrested yesterday during a raid conducted in Banavasala, Kalaniya. The suspect, who was in possession of about 1,470 capsules of a drug named pregabalin, was handed over to the Paliagoda police. The arrested suspect is a 26-year-old resident of Kalaniya.
Ministry of Plantation Industries of Sri Lanka states that tea exportation is on the rise compared to last year.
The income earned from the export of tea during the first quarter of 2023 has been reported as $408 million. The ministry further states that 50% from the promotion fund of the Sri Lanka Tea Board has been allocated for tea plantation.
In an interview with CGTN, Sri Lankan Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena says that the port city strengthens China-Sri Lanka ties.
Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena says that the Colombo port city is going to be a major investment zone as it will serve the country to export and carry out transactions with the international community.
Colombo port city development is a major step forward for which China has been taken the initiative, supported Sri Lanka. Colombo is the capital of Sri Lanka, the commercial capital for over 500 years. So internationally it is important for Sri Lanka. Colombo port city is part of Colombo city, which is also therefore very important. And over the years, Chinese investment and Chinese development plans has made once the area that was full of seawater in today to an island where buildings are coming up as a port city development. The President has given highest priority to a financial hub. So it is going to be a major investment zone which will be connected to internal development zones in Sri Lanka, which will use the port city development as export and transactions with the international community.
Russian National Day was celebrated in Colombo on Thursday.
Sri Lanka and Russia have always celebrated a long-standing friendship. Many dignitaries and diplomats were present at this occasion. Ambassador of the Russian Federation in Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Levan Jagarian, and former President Mahinda Rajapaksa were among those present for the celebrations.
We highly appreciate the balanced position of Sri Lanka, especially now, which is very important for us now when my country is facing with very difficult problems. And we have a request only in terms of Ukraine. We would like to see this neighboring country and Ukrainians are our brothers, the same language and the same culture, the same religion, to see Ukraine as a neutral country with no NATO basis. And our demands are quite clearly were mentioned by President Putin. The Nazification of the Ukraine, demilitarization of Ukraine, the neutral status of the Ukraine, and Ukraine must respect and recognize that Crimea and four new regions of the Russian Federation belong to us. We welcome all peaceful proposals, initiatives by South Africa, by Indonesia, by Vatican. But the key is in the hands of Americans. They are decision makers, and they would like, together with their allies, to defeat Russia. My question is it possible to defeat such a strong and great power like Russia? Is it possible to defeat a nuclear power like Russia? It is impossible.
Minister Susil Premajant expressed these views during the event.
And Sri Lanka and the Russian Federation celebrated the momentous occasion of the 65th anniversary of establishing diplomatic relations in February last year. We are grateful to Russian Federation for their support at international forums. We have signed MOU between Sri Lanka and Russian Federation in the field of education, higher education and vocational training and science and research. I am confident that our robust and multifaceted partnership in the years ahead will go from strength to strength.
Russian National Day is celebrated on the 12th of June to mark the adoption of the Declaration of Sovereignty of the Russian Federation in 1991.
US media reported that US former President Donald Trump has been indicted on 7 federal criminal charges on Thursday of removing classified documents from the White House and summoned to a federal courthouse in Miami next Tuesday.
Trump becomes the first US president to be indicted on federal criminal charges. He denied any wrongdoing in a post on social media late Thursday. Earlier this year, he became the first US president to be indicted by a state when the state of New York indicted him on 34 charges of filing false business accounts for apparently using election campaign funds to pay $130,000 in hush money to an adult movie star that he had been in a relationship with prior to becoming president. Last month, Trump, who is running for the 2024 election campaign, seeking to once again become president, lost a civil case in which he had been accused of sexually abusing a well-known newspaper columnist. The federal criminal charges stem from an investigation by a special counsel who is looking into allegations of classified documents have been moved from the White House to Trump's house in Mar-a-Lago, Florida, and not returned prior to his leaving office. The FBI last August raided Trump's home and seized 33 boxes containing 11,000 documents, some of which were classified. Trump is also the subject of federal and state investigations that he sought to illegally overturn the results in the state of Georgia of the 2020 presidential election that he lost.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. For all these stories and much more, you can visit our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. Thank you for watching. Good night.